So, a fresh new week has arrived, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, the move we have all been waiting for finally happened, but it definitely didn't go down how many people actually expected it to, and as a result, it flipped the league upside down, so we definitely have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now. So if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Marquise, and he says that Damian Lillard has been hiding behind a false bravado of loyalty for so long because he was happy playing pressure-free basketball, and he's going to choke in Milwaukee now that there are actual expectations put on him. So obviously, at first glance, this seems like a pretty insane thing to say about one of the best players in the league over the last decade. But even though I wouldn't go nearly as far as this person did, I can't say there isn't a tiny bit of truth to the statement. Lillard and his Trailblazer teams have had a decent bit of success in the playoffs, but they were never really at any point one of the teams expected to be competing for a championship. Any success that they did have felt like a bonus, and it definitely did feel pressure-free to an extent, because when you're constantly the underdog, you're not being as heavily scrutinized as the top players on top teams who have championship or bust expectations. Lillard's Blazers have won 4 total playoff series in his 10 years with the team, with one trip to the conference finals that Dame can definitely hang his hat on, and he individually has also definitely given us some insane playoff performances, including 2 iconic game-winning buzzer beaters against the Rockets and the Thunder that everyone remembers. But what nobody ever seems to mention is that Lillard has also had his fair share of playoff struggles, especially in the later rounds when the pressure rose around him. In 2018, the Blazers were the favored 3 seed against the 6 seed Pelicans, and they got swept in that series, where Lillard averaged just 18 points and shot the ball 35% from the field. In 2019, when the Blazers made the conference finals, he did have a great first round series against the Thunder, but then in the second round, his shooting woes began and CJ McCollum was actually the one who led them over the Nuggets, and in the conference finals, when they got swept by the Warriors, Lillard averaged just 22 points, shooting the ball 37% from the field. So yeah, Lillard does have a bit of a history of struggling when the lights get brighter, despite the narrative of him being this uber-clutch beast. The reason why nobody ever really harps on those struggles, though, is because in most of the series he was the underdog and was not actually expected to win. But now in Milwaukee, that is going to not be the case. This is the first championship or bust season that Damian Lillard has ever had, so we'll just have to wait and see how he handles it. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Jonah, and he says that the Trailblazers got a horrendous deal for Damian Lillard when you look at everything that they gave up alongside him compared to what they got back. So now that Damian Lillard has actually been traded, there has obviously been a ton of back and forth regarding whether or not the Blazers made the right decision. The Miami Heat were Dame's preferred destination, so the fact that the Heat were not the team that ultimately got a deal across the finish line is going to leave a sour taste in the mouths of some people. The justification for Portland doing business elsewhere has always been because of the fact that they were looking for the best possible return for Lillard and did not feel like Miami's offer was worthwhile. So does that mean that Milwaukee's offer combined with the assets coming in from Phoenix was the best offer? Well, let's take a look. In total, Portland shipped out Damian Lillard, Yusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson. In return, they brought in DeAndre Ayton, Jrue Holiday, Tuamani Camara, a first-round pick, and a couple of pick swaps. Now, what I'm thinking is that the person that submitted this take drastically overrates Jusuf Nurkic, because otherwise Keon Johnson and Nasir Little are fringe rotation players at best. Jusuf Nurkic, from what I'm noticing, seems to have a reputation as this defensive-minded big man that protects the rim at a high level, but that just has not been the truth about Nurkic's game since about 2019. Nurkic has struggled mightily on the defensive end, and say what you want about DeAndre Ayton's attitude, but he is not only a massive upgrade on both ends of the floor, but he's also just 25 years old and can still fit into the team's young core, which is primarily made up of guards at the moment. Then you look at Jrue Holiday, who was just named an All-Star last season, and I'll say it right now, Holiday is going to be traded again in the near future, so the Blazers will have even more assets coming in return from whatever deal gets done there. This is the only offer that Portland had on the table that included an All-Star caliber player, and it also got them a talented young big man that fits into their timeline, so I strongly disagree with the idea that this was a bad deal for Portland. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Luke, and he says that Denver, after all that has gone down this summer, are still the best team in the NBA. You don't need to hear it from me, but a lot has gone down since the Denver Nuggets have been crowned as NBA champions. There has been a ton of top talent moving around this summer, and quite a few teams have been bolstering their rosters to prepare for a title run of their own. But while all of that has been going on, you can't forget about the reigning champions, who have every intention of coming in and defending their crown. The Nuggets are returning all 5 of their starters from last year's run, so they're running it back with what has proven to work, and you would be foolish to write them off. But does that mean they're still the best? Well, that's a much different discussion. While the Nuggets are returning their entire starting lineup from last year, they did lose their best bench player Bruce Brown in free agency, and the only potential replacement that they brought in was Justin Holiday, who has not been very good at all over the last few years. Their bench wasn't even very deep to begin with, so they clearly took a hit in the depth department by losing him. Then, when you look at what has happened around them, you see that the Phoenix Suns have been very aggressive this summer, bringing in Bradley Beal. The Lakers are going to look to build on the momentum that they got in the second half of last season. The Warriors traded for Chris Paul, and the Clippers might actually stay healthy for once, knock on wood. Not to mention that I haven't even mentioned any of the Eastern Conference teams like the Bucks, who just brought Damian Lillard in to pair with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Right now, if you want to say that the Nuggets are still the team on top and should be the favorites to win it all again, then I don't think many people would argue with you that hard, but if you asked me personally who I think the best team in the league for the 2024 season is right now, I honestly think I would favor a few other teams over them after all of the dust has settled on the major offseason moves. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.